What's good, gamers? I think it's safe to say that Diablo 4 is massive. Exactly how big, though, I think is still very much underestimated by a large group of players. And how this will affect the future of Blizzard Entertainment is also very much underestimated. We're going to be covering all of that and more in this video. First up, sales. Previously, the record for the fastest selling video game of all time was held by Diablo, launched in 2012, sold 3.5 million copies on day one. A decade later, Shadowlands would take that record with 3.7 million copies, and then 18 days later, Cyberpunk 2077 would take that record with 4.7 million copies. Now, I think it's safe to say that all three of those games that sold massively came with a massive letdown after the initial hype had gone. Diablo 4, on the other hand, has absolutely smashed at least two of the three records. We now know that Diablo 4 is the fastest selling Blizzard game of all time, and it remains to be seen whether it can actually dethrone Cyberpunk 2077. Remember, all of these sales are only targeted at day one sales, so it's not that these games are the biggest selling games of all time, just the fastest selling games of all time. What I can say is that I do not believe this game is going to have the massive drop that we've seen with the aforementioned titles, mainly because Diablo 4 is actually super fun. It's very friendly to the casual player base, and that is something that a lot of ARPGs lack. The ARPG market is in sort of a weird flux right now. There's a ton of people that really want to get into ARPGs. The problem is that you're basically strapped for choice. You either go with an ARPG from the East that will be so filled with microtransactions and pay-to-win mechanics that unless you're a billionaire, you can't really play it, or you have to go for something like Path of Exile, which, while fun, is very much geared towards the super hardcore. Diablo 4 hits, I think, a very sweet spot there. There's enough customization and depth that you can really go deep into whatever build you want to go with, but it's not so overwhelming that the player will just feel like they're completely lost in the weeds. The world is massive, and we already know that two new expansions are in the works for Diablo 4 as we speak, with a rumored never-before-seen class being worked on for Diablo 4. So things are truly heating up when it comes to Diablo 4. What has been surprising about Diablo 4 isn't its peak Twitch viewer numbers. It's by no means the largest or most viewed game of all time, but it is the consistency with which it has maintained that viewership. It has peaked at just under 1 million players, and since then it's been averaging between 300 and 600,000 viewers depending on the time of day, and that is nearly a week after the game has become available on Twitch, which I think in and of itself speaks volumes to just the reception of this game. It was Mike Morhaime that said way back in the day with Project Titan that World of Warcraft will not last forever. And then when World of Warcraft comes to an end, the player base will seek for newer pastures. And if Blizzard doesn't have an MMO on offer, the player base will simply walk to the competitors. It failed. Project Titan was dead. It is now doubly dead when Overwatch 2 finally announced that Project Hero was also being cancelled, but they didn't care because Diablo 4, with all of its incredible reviews and the player reception being overwhelmingly positive, is this new MMO. And before people go, dude, not an MMO, it's a single player game that you can play with friends, please explain to me the difference between Diablo 4 and an MMO. I have not heard anyone come up with a compelling explanation for their perceived differences. Diablo 4 has an open world. It is multiplayer. The world is persistent. There are world bosses. There are dungeons. There's PvP. The only thing Diablo 4 misses is raids. Their business model is already taken care of. There's a cash shop, and I do want to say one of the best implementations of a cash shop I have ever seen. I have now played for quite some time during the beta as well as on the live servers, and I have not once been forced onto the cash shop. I've not once even been necessarily directed towards the cash shop. The cash shop is there if you want to click on it, but for the most part, you just play. They have a battle pass system which will serve as the quote-unquote subscription service for this new MMO. So really, the raids. Well, Blizzard have already announced that their approach to Diablo 4 is going to be very similar to Dragonflight, which is lots of content, more sooner, more faster, more consistently. Mark my words, I believe a raid will be introduced probably within the next month or two. We know the battle pass is going live at the end of this month, I believe, and it may actually be that the raid goes live the month after that, or maybe even 2 months after that, whenever Blizzard decides that now is the time to sort of prop up the game and get more content into the hands of the player base. Couple that with 2 new expansions being announced, and there is no way that Diablo 4 is ever coming to an end, and that really is the point of this video. I do not believe that we will see a Diablo 5 or even a Diablo 6. I believe Diablo 4 is Blizzard's last attempt at Diablo. Remember, Diablo 3 came to an end because Blizzard could never figure out a monetization system. The game wasn't built to be always online, always played. It was very limited in what it actually offered, and once you get into it, you realize that Diablo 3 really had the depth of a puddle. A lot of players got really bored with Diablo 3 really fast. Diablo 4 doesn't suffer from these problems. There's more than enough talents there to really vary the amount of builds that you want to go for, and if Blizzard balances it correctly, you're gonna see people coming up with some crazy shit. It has enough catering for the very casual player base as well as the very hardcore player base to do what World of Warcraft did way back in the day. Before World of Warcraft existed, MMOs were known for their super hardcore element. If you didn't have the MMO as your second job, you weren't playing MMOs right. World of Warcraft came and said, hey, what if we gave you a very casual game that you could literally play at your own leisure, but we offered enough depth to also allow you to play super hardcore if that is what you want to do. And World of Warcraft took over the scene in a massive way. Diablo 4 is, in my opinion, exactly that game, but for the ARPG market. And since this is the new MMO market, everyone is making an ARPG, and most of those ARPGs are super shite or just complete gotcha mechanic full nonsense. Diablo 4 exists in this world and can absolutely conquer it, which means Blizzard can turn this game that was always known as a single-player ARPG into an MMO ARPG, and it can be done quietly without ever making waves. It's just always there. I am personally very excited for this, so I would love to hear your thoughts. Have you played Diablo 4 already, or are you holding out? If you are holding out, I would suggest getting into it as soon as possible. The game is actually pretty good. You can join us over on Twitch. I stream there, well, pretty much as often as I want. Then to all of the patrons, the Twitch subs, and of course the YouTube channel members, thank you so much for your support. It means the absolute world to me. Without you, this shit would not be possible, so I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, be kind to each other, be good to each other, and I'll see all of you in the next one. Peace out, fam.